Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about classifying AR-15s. Okay, what label do we put on this? Is this an assault rifle? Is it a modern sporting rifle? Is it a home defense rifle? What category does it fall into? Because Americans like to categorize things. Okay, so um, the let's go all the way back to beginning of World War II. Okay, so the you know before World War II there was basically pistol calibers, and then there was full size rifle calibers, right? So you have like your 9 millimeters and your 45s, and then like you have like your 30-06, or whatever the German equivalent of that was. So you got like you had the British 303, right? You had full size ones. So there was nothing in between. Okay, so. The American Army, going into World War II, didn't quite like the idea of having, certain military personnel like the truck drivers, the people running the supply warehouses, the cooks, the staff. All they had was a 1911 with a 45 ACP to defend themselves. Okay, and being out there near the front lines, the possibility of being overrun was real. So they wanted to give them something more than a 1911 pistol, and the full size M1 Garand was a little too much. So the American military came up with the idea of, hey, let's give them these puny little M1 carbines in place of their 1911 pistols. Okay, so the M1 carbine shooting the 30 carbine was intended by the American military as a replacement for the 45 pistol. Okay, for the 1911. Okay, so they basically looked at it as a pistol. Okay, so this is in the eyes of the 1941 American military. This is a glorified pistol. Okay, now on the German side, okay, the Germans again same deal. They had pistol calibers, right, like their 9 millimeter Luger, right, and then they had their full size battle rifles. As far as guns, they had like machine pistols that fired pistol calibers. They had actual pistols, and then they had their I think Mausers, whatever they had, right? They had their full size battle rifles. So when Hitler and um, his uh, his brass, right, was initially proposed the idea of an intermediate cartridge, he said, "Phooey, you don't need that." Okay, German soldiers need battle rifles. They don't need this intermediary rifle BS. So his staff at the lower levels, right out in the field, felt that he was wrong, and they didn't want to go against Hitler. So what they did is they reclassified or they renamed their intermediary caliber as a pistol caliber. Okay, so they called it a machine pistol in order to basically get the squeeze by approved and get it put into production. Okay, so the Sturmgewehr, okay, which a lot of people will say is the first assault rifle, was only went into production because Hitler's staff at the lower levels disguised it as a pistol in order to get it put into production. Okay, so it wasn't until later on when Hitler was getting feedback that, hey, he asked the soldiers, is there anything else I can give you guys? He goes, yeah, give us more of these assault rifles, right? The storm rifles. Okay, so but the point is that initially, the German brass did not think that there was a place for this intermediate cartridge. Okay, on the American side, the military didn't think that there was a place for this, except for for truck drivers and artillery units and people that aren't, let's say, on the front lines. Basically, it was intended as a replacement for their pistol. Okay. Now, what happened is that. So here's the thing: we got two different mentalities here. The Germans very quickly started using their Sturmgewehr offensively, right? The Americans didn't. The American military didn't have a specific policy. It was intended for the staff in the back. However, from what I hear, the soldiers, American soldiers, would trade with each other. So a lot of guys out on the front lines wanted the lighter rifles, and they would trade, and that's how a lot of these M1 carbines ended up in the front lines. And then even when they got to the front lines again, there was a lot of trading back and forth between who wanted what gun, and that's how a lot of these M1 carbines ended up in the front. From what I hear, I think more M1 carbines were actually built by the end of the war than M1 Garands. Okay, so, but that wasn't what the initial military idea was, right? They thought that these M1 carbines that fired the intermediary cartridges were a replacement for the pistol. Okay, so they certainly weren't designed to be assault rifles. Okay, now one of the interesting things that has always kind of bugged me is that a lot of times people will give credit to the Sturmgewehr as being the first assault rifle or intermediary rifle. I think that belongs to the M1 carbine. Okay, that's where I think credit belongs. Okay, and I think the 30 carbine. I always thought that the 30 carbine would kind of make a comeback at some point, and I think that kind of got killed when the 300 blackout came along. Okay, but up until the point of the 300 blackout, I always thought that, hey, one day that 30 carbine is going to come back and it's going to become a thing again. Yeah, but now, so the third, now here's the thing: the 30 carbine, I think it shoots something like the muzzle energy is something like 900 foot-pounds. Okay, which is, it's about twice as powerful as your typical pistol, right? So it's definitely in that intermediary cartridge range. Okay. I think, to me, it's like the intermediary cartridge range is somewhere between, 700 foot-pounds of energy, going up to like whatever, like something like maybe 1,800 foot-pounds of energy. And then beyond that, you're either getting at the full-size battle rifle, or if you go below that, you're starting to go into pistol territory. So again, now that's just my opinion. Okay, but the 30 carbine, to me, definitely an intermediary cartridge. I mean, they don't make any pistols like handguns that take 30 carbine, and the reason is because it's big and powerful, and you have to really build up like a big, heavy gun. And it's been done, right? I have seen these big revolvers that will shoot the 30 carbine, but the point is, this is obviously not best suited for a handgun. It is best suited for a light rifle. Okay, now initially the accuracy of these, both the 30 carbine and the Sturmgewehr was not great. Okay, they could not shoot the 500 yards plus that modern day AR-15 shoot. The reason, I suspect, is like from the factories, the rifling probably wasn't up to par because they were never intended to shoot that kind of distance, and also the ammunition loadings were probably not consistent because, again, they didn't envision these things shooting past 100, 200 yards max. Okay, because hey, for those distances we got the full size battle rifles. Okay, so I think that's the reason why like carbine, like 30 carbines and these Sturmgewehrs, a lot of times I'll hear accuracy, people quoting an accuracy of something like 6 MOA going all the way up to like 10 MOA. Okay, so with the modern AR-15s, they're designed from the ground up to be accurate guns. Okay, in fact, you can get the cheapest AR out there, right? The $500 AR. Okay, with good ammunition, they'll shoot 2 MOA or better. Okay, even the cheapest one you can get. And the thing is, like maybe 15, 20 years ago, they were building crappy ARs or crappy barrels, but the machines that would build those barrels, right, that would make those riflings, they've all broken down and been replaced by now. And it wouldn't make sense for manufacturers to just build, like have one machine to build, let's say like 1 MOA rifles, and then another machine to build like whatever, like 5 MOA rifles, because now you gotta buy an extra machine and you gotta basically dumb that machine down, right? So it's a lot cheaper, and it makes a lot more sense to use the same machine to do the rifling on the economy ARs and also the expensive ARs. Okay, so that's why even cheap ARs today with good ammunition will get pretty close to 1 MOA. Okay, so as far as the labeling, okay, what do we label this? What do we call it? Because I mean, its proper place in history is that this is a rifle that shoots an intermediary cartridge. Okay, that's what the rifle does, right? It shoots an intermediary cartridge. So what do you call it? Because here's the thing: it's the Americans, right? To the American military, okay, this was purely defensive, right? Like defensive behind, way back from the front lines, right? This is something for the truck drivers and the artillery units and the cooks and the base staff. That's what the M1 carbine was for, okay? And then from there, it eventually found its way into the front lines. But that's what the U.S. military initially thought this rifle was good for, okay? Now, the Germans, they more quickly realized that, hey, this rifle, this Sturmgewehr, which again also a rifle that shoots an intermediary cartridge, would also be good for offensive operations. Okay, so this rifle kind of does it all. It's good for defense. It's good for offense. Okay, it does both. Okay, so I mean today we can use it for home defense. We can use it for competition. We can use it for hunting. We can use it for SHTF. Okay, so it's the rifle that does it all. So to me, if you gotta label this, right, the most proper label that I've heard of all the labels that are floating around out there, is GP, General Purpose Rifle. Okay, GP. That's, I think, the best classification for the AR-15. Okay, that shoots 5.56 caliber, General Purpose Rifle. Which, by the way, a lot of people aren't going to know this, but that's what the Jeep, right, the World War II Jeep. Okay, that's the way that the term Jeep came about. Was that little Jeep was basically a general purpose vehicle, right? And the GI started basically calling it the Jeep. Okay, but that's how the Jeep got its name. The Jeep was a general purpose vehicle. Okay, so I think they were calling it GP. Like it's all getting to the GP, and then the GP became the Jeep. Okay, so that name also goes back to World War II. So I want to share that with you guys. As far as classification, since we like to classify things, of all the names that I've heard floating around for this, I think that general purpose rifle is the one that makes more sense, because that would include home defense and sporting purposes and hunting and SHTF and all the other stuff that you can imagine. Okay, so you guys let me know what you think. Drop some comments below. Check your subscription, because YouTube unsubscribes people. What I think they do, because I've seen a pattern here. Okay, like sometimes I'll post a video and it'll get like sometimes I'll post a video and let's say it gets like 100 views, right? And I'll get like 10 additional subscriptions, right? And then sometimes I'll post another video, right, like showing, it'll get like something like 3,000 views, right, or 6,000 views, and I'll only see 10 additional subscriptions. So what I think YouTube does is they limit the number of new subscriptions that I can get on my channel, okay, to 10 more per day or something, okay. That's all they're allowing me. And the way that they do it is, as new people hit the subscribe button, they unsubscribe the old ones, right? The oldest ones, to keep me growing at that anemic state, okay? Because YouTube hates me, okay? For one thing, I don't monetize, okay? And by me not monetizing, I don't allow them to use my videos to advertise the shit that they want to advertise, okay? So that's how I think YouTube tries to punish me. They don't, they limit me like that. If I monetize this channel, they would probably let me grow a lot faster, but at the same time, you guys would be seeing a lot more commercials of things that I don't think are related or I care about. And also, they would use that as a way to try and control me, because what happens is once you get used to getting money from somebody, you want to keep getting that money. So then they would basically say, oh, if you want to keep advertising, you can't do stuff like take your guns apart, put magazines in there, whatever, Then they're going to try and add on all these extra rules. Okay, so that's why I never got into the advertising business went into the advertising business with YouTube, because I know that they would basically try to use that as a means to control me and censor me and so forth. Okay, so drop some comments below. Let me know what you guys think. I'll talk to you all soon.